Many people want to visit the beautiful and friendly country of Croatia. There's a variety of ways to do so, but the absolute best experience, in my opinion, is aboard a smaller cruising vessel. We chose the vessel Cataleya. This 110-foot motor sailing vessel, with only 16 passengers, provides a unique cruising experience. Traveling from Split, Croatia, we visited some amazing islands and sites. Owned by a local Croatian family, the localized itinerary and connections made this a one-of-a-kind cruise. Cataleya not only offers just hospitality, but heartfelt connection and care. I can't speak highly enough about the destinations, the food, and the personalized service. It was more than a cruise. It was a journey that deepened our connection to Croatia itself. It's time to go. After a refreshing cocktail at LAX, we flew to Split. By the way, here's a travel tip. If you have to make a connection, do so at a place that has a lot of flights to Split, otherwise you might get delayed. After a long night of travel to Split, we met our gracious host and went to our apartment to freshen up. Once settled, we began exploring. Starting at the People's Square, there are lots of bars and restaurants. The city clock tower features a 24-digit clock face. Traveling through the narrow streets, we encountered a fascinating variety of shops, from Christmas shops, duck shops, clothing stores, ice cream, and of course the souvenir shop. After wandering for a while, we headed towards the Riva waterfront and passed Diocletian's Palace, the emperor's old retirement home built in the early 300s. Much of the Roman street grid is still intact today. Stepping into the tunnels, the city noise fades and the air cools. Your footsteps echo off stone that's been here since Roman times. These passages once supported the emperor's private chambers above. As the light appears ahead, the walls open up and you step through the old southern gate onto the Riva, where there's a bustling boardwalk. Next, we posed for the must-have Split sign photo. Then we grabbed a drink at an upstairs bar where you can see the Seafarers Lighthouse, the tallest in Croatia. As the day wound down, heading back to rest, we passed the Palace of the Rector in Fruit Square. Peristyle Square is a central square within Diocletian's palace. Peeking into more shops, we discovered Kavica, a Croatian way of hanging out with friends and having a break and talking for hours drinking coffee. Local street food looked appealing, but we chose Pizzeria Portis. Highly rated, it did not disappoint. Near the apartment, we could quickly crawl into bed and get a good night's sleep. It's the second day of our pre-cruise stay in Split, Croatia. Tomorrow, we'll be boarding the motor yacht Cataleya for a one-week cruise along the coast. Check for Cataleya in the links below. For now, we'll keep letting you know the best of Split. Beginning our day of exploration, we can't get enough of the narrow alleyways framed by ancient Roman arches. The bell tower of the Cathedral of St. Domnius rises dramatically in the background. One of the four entrances to Diocletian's palace is the Golden Gate. It once served as the emperor's ceremonial entrance. Hunger called, and a local charcuterie answered. But it wasn't enough. We still had a sweet tooth and had to get the best gelato in town. Looking over the central palace courtyard known as the Peristyle, we turned into the vestibule. Serving as a traditional space between Peristyle and Diocletian's private quarters, it was designed to impress visitors with its scale and symmetry. Its open roof soars into the sky. From the waterfront, we venture into Procurative Square, just west of Diocletian's palace. Red neo-Renaissance facades with arched colonnades flank a wide stone paved plaza which hosts concerts, festivals, and public events. Inspired by Venice's St. Mark's Square, it has its own distinctive Dalmatian flair. Several restaurants occupy the square. A nice area leading back to the waterfront awaits us as we pass through and out of the square. Next up was olive oil tasting at the famous Yuhi Bar. One of the most interesting ways to explore Split is to hop aboard a tuk-tuk. As we travel from town, we pass the harbor. Split's harbor has welcomed travelers for centuries, from Roman empires to Venetian merchants. Diocletian's palace still watches over the waterfront, where ferries and sailboats glide past ancient stone quays. It's more than a scenic port, it's a living timeline, where history meets horizon. Finally, the stone streets give way to a pine-shaded path. You arrive at Margin Park, a beloved green escape for both locals and travelers alike. Margin Park is a must-see when in Split. Entering the park through a stone walkway, we enter a magnificent forest that gives way to open vistas. Passing the old Jewish cemetery, the park exposes its beautiful views of the Adriatic Sea and several islands in the distance. A short walk along the plunging cliffs reminds us of the footsteps of Roman legions and Venetian sailors. Lined with palms and centuries-old stone, locals and travelers alike stroll here at sunset, where history and leisure meet. Tucked among the cypress trees of Margin Park, we approach a quiet stone pavilion, a rotunda of classic columns and solemn grace. This memorial structure marks a place of reflection where Split's layered history meets the stillness of nature. Here we slow down and feel the timeless rhythm of Croatia's coastal soul. As we descended the Margin Hill, we stopped at Tereka Vidilica, which served as a lookout for sailors and pilgrims arriving in Split. Today, it's a peaceful terrace and cafe offering panoramic views over the old town, the harbor, and the distant islands of Brač and Solta. On our evening stroll through Split, we were fortunate enough to stumble across a Croatian wedding. These celebrations are rich with tradition, joyful kolo dances, heartfelt toasts, and moments of deep national pride. When the anthem rises in song, it's not just music, it's a tribute to the heritage, unity, and love. That night marked the beginning of our admiration for the Croatian spirit, proud, welcoming, and beautifully rooted in history. The Magnus restaurant is located inside the historic stone walls of Diocletian's palace. The grandiose interior features a richly decorated ceiling, highlighted with painted panels and ornate framing. After a nightcap, it was time to end the day and get some rest. It's our third day in Croatia. Later this afternoon, we'll be traveling to the island of Solta. In the meantime, we'll spend a few hours exploring as much of Split as we can. Down the narrow streets we wandered, each step drawing us closer to the next adventure. We decided to visit one of Split's most iconic landmarks, Cathedral St. Domnius. Originally built as Diocletian's mausoleum, it now stands as one of the oldest Catholic cathedrals still in use. Its octagonal shape, Roman columns, and medieval bell tower reflect centuries of transformation, from imperial tomb to sacred sanctuary. Inside, the stone walls echo with history, layered in faith and resilience. Here, in Diocletian's own tomb, the inscription declares a stunning reversal, the persecutor's mausoleum reborn as a cathedral to the faith he tried to destroy. The altar rests beneath a vaulted stone canopy, framed by carved marble columns and centuries-old reliefs. Its placement draws the eye forward. Viewed from the other side, we can see the intricate work. Towering above the sanctuary, the organ pipes rise in gleaming vertical ranks. Lined with dark wooden stalls and crowned by painted saints, this intimate choir room once echoed with sacred harmonies and solemn chants. Afterwards, a quick snack and drinks at the busy Riva beachfront would prepare us for the coming adventure aboard the motor yacht Cataleya. Leaving soon, we gathered our things and headed to the marina. And there she was, We couldn't wait to get aboard to begin our adventure. Once aboard, we explored the upper deck. A hot tub, water toys, and comfortable deck chairs beckoned us to use them. The views of the surrounding islands mesmerized us as we sailed along to Salta. As the evening arrived, it was time to sample the boat's cuisine. Here, the charcuterie boards were emptied in moments. Ravenous guests and tasty boards did quick work of them while we waited for dinner. The camaraderie we experienced on this trip started here and lasted the entire time. Safely anchored, conversation flowed until nighttime. But the long day finally caught up to everyone, and it was time to say good night, Moon. Woken by the rumble of the engines, we began day 4 of our cruise. This leg is from the island of Salta to the island of Vis. Setting sail on a pleasant day, we join the others on the top deck. Plenty of space to enjoy the calm sail toward the island of Vis. After the captain finds a good place to anchor in this beautiful bay, we'll go ashore. Our adventure started with a fun dinghy ride to shore. Before departure, the crew gave us our options. On top of the list was the Blue Cave, a famous tourist spot. The cave attracts people from all over the world. As you can see, you can take the ferry from Split if you aren't cruising to get there. On the other side of Vis is Komisa. It's the tourist hub for the cave. Time to board the tour boat. After hopping on board, we got a nice view of Komisa as we leave the harbor. At the cave landing, we'll board a smaller cave tour boat to gain access to the caves. Approaching the landing, our guide points out where the smaller cave boats will travel. Heading around the corner, we start to see the cave entrance. As we enter the cave, the guide reminds us to duck. Only one boat at a time can enter or leave the cave. Beautiful colors adorn the craggy walls in the very tight entrance. Making the final turn, the incredible blue colors reveal themselves in the water. Using a pole, the guide pushes us into position right in the bluest part of the cave. It was truly amazing. This video just doesn't show the cave in its grandeur, so you'll just have to visit it for yourself. Listen to the guide's explanation of the color.
1.5 meters of stone under the water does not allow daylight to enter the cave directly, and then daylight, the sunlight, and the color of the sky first must hit at the crystal clear sand at the bottom of the Mediterranean, and then they are reflected into the cave, creating this amazing.
On the way out, we were treated to a stunning display of color along the walls. What a great way to leave the cave behind. Driving back to Vis, we viewed the Church of St. Nicholas. Perched above Komisa, this 13th century church once sheltered monks and seafarers from pirate raids. Entering the town of Vis, the driver asked us if we'd like to stop at a winery. A resounding yes found us at a small private winery. The owner explains.
Hello, this is grapes. We're picking grapes in the morning, and now we get fermentation 24 hours, and we make white.
This is red.
Yeah, white.
This is white. Okay.
This is white. Now white and October red.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how often do you feel?
Every few hours.
Okay.
Okay.
And then how long will it be like that?
24 hours.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, we use the press and make wine. This is 700 kilograms, maybe 500 liter wine. Yeah.
Okay.
And de-stemmer, do you have one of those?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. And you want to try the glass of the wine?
Yes, we do.
Wines and caves made us very hungry, so we all decided to head back to the boat for a late brunch. Starting with a plate of fresh mussels, we quickly learned that seafood is king here, with fresh catches every day from the bountiful Adriatic Sea. This sea bass grilled with herbs, olive oil, and a splash of lemon hit the spot. After brunch, a few folks swam and paddleboarded around to work off some of the calories. This glorious day was winding down as the sun set over V's. It was the perfect time to relax in the spa. It felt great after the day's activities. Happily exhausted, we got some much-needed sleep. On this day, we are sailing to the island of Korčula. Highlighting Korčula is Old Town, a maze of stone and sea, cathedrals, towers, and sunset bars perched high above the Adriatic. Marking our passage of Vis, the famous Vis lighthouse fades into the distance. Entering the narrow channel to Korčula, we see lots of vessels in the area. The large cruise ship reminds us of how lucky we are to be on Cataleya. Smoothly sailing along under power, we enjoy the glorious views. Spotting Korčula, the excitement builds for our land adventure. The captain expertly finds a nice anchorage along with some fellow sailors. Off to our port side, we see the Franciscan Monastery of St. Jerome. Although it can be visited, there are no formal tours. It lies on an island with a 3-kilometer walk around if you choose to visit. After all that sailing, we enjoyed gnocchi for lunch. "Best ever," said my wife. It was time to explore. Viewing Old Town from the air, we found it shaped like a fish. Medieval architects designed the streets to harness cool winds and shield the city from the Adriatic's heat. Once we found the Old Town gate, we rambled through the streets. What we found out was that on the north side, the streets are straight and open to the breeze, designed to catch the cool mistral winds. On the south side, the streets are curved and narrow, designed to block the hot southern winds. This asymmetry is intentional. It's medieval climate engineering at its finest. It was really true about the street engineering. One could feel the difference as we passed the bone streets. One of the most iconic places in Korčula is St. Mark's Cathedral. Its clock tower rises far above the old town and stands guard for this medieval fortress. Inside, you'll find incredible stoneworks from Korčula's most famous craftsmen of the 15th century. As we head to our next destination, we pass a couple of promising restaurants for dinner later. Seeing fresh fish increased our seafood cravings. Taking a tuk-tuk is always fun, and this ride was no exception. We cruised along the quaint seaside road, the water glittering beside us, before the path began to climb into the hills above Korčula. As we rose higher, the lush vegetation slowly opened up, revealing sweeping views of the walled old town below. We stopped for a quick pose and soaked in the panorama, enjoying the perfect mix of breeze, sunlight, and silence. After a few moments, we rolled back down toward the drop-off point, which happened to be near our next stop, the iconic tower bar Massimo's. En route, we encountered a stonemason. His work was everywhere on the island, and he was even involved in the large rocks used for the beaches. Perched on the rooftop of a 15th century tower, Massimo Cocktail Bar delivers drinks by pulley and offers panoramic views over Old Town. It's a must-do here, especially at sunset. It's a steep climb to reach the top, but the sunset and sea breeze make it unforgettable. On the first level, the excellent bartenders create their libations. A wide variety of unique drinks were available. Our favorite was gin and Henry's pink grapefruit with berries. Once prepared, the drinks are then placed in the basket and taken outside. On the outside of the tower was a very clever pulley system used to raise the basket to the rooftop level. We watched in fascination as the cocktails traveled upwards towards the servers above. Up a flight of stairs is the next level where an ancient knight guards us from evil. Finally, the famous wooden ladder to the rooftop beckons us to the open roof area. Our cocktails arrived, and our boatmates relaxed to enjoy the spectacular view. Living up to the hype, the views of the Adriatic Sea, nearby islands, and Old Town invited good times and many photo ops. If you visit Corčula, do not miss coming up here for the sunset. And here's a travel tip: get here early to get a table. Fiery colors painted the sky for our enjoyment. Feeling hungry, we decided to grab dinner in town. We settled on Konoba Mareta and were seated outside. By the way, this type of seating was very common in Croatia. It turns out that this well-known restaurant serves excellent seafood. Honestly, a lot of us agreed that this was the best meal we had in Croatia. Full, we headed back to the boat for R&R until the next day's activities. Today we will make the voyage from Corčula to the island of Hvar. First, we'll stop at the quaint port of Jelsa. Nestled on the northern coast, Jelsa has been a haven for sailors and settlers since ancient times. We pass the town of Sukaraj, backdropped by the coastal mountains, before we turn the corner on our way to Jelsa. In the large Jelsa Bay, we anchored while waiting for our berth to open. Time for water toys! My favorite was the water electric scooter. You pretty much hang on for dear life while it whisks you both above and below the water. As a scuba diver, I think this would be great for a long underwater adventure. Trying to dive with a snorkel was difficult due to the pressure changes, but super fun. You guessed it, time for lunch. Delicious vegetables and tomahawk pork chops were served. It sure was an appetizing plate. Our berth was ready for us, and we entered the harbor, passing a few mega yachts. Cataleya sure looked good as she patiently awaits her next voyage. While we looked around, we couldn't help but notice the casual and clean vibe of Jelsa. We couldn't wait to go explore some of the island. For centuries, donkeys provided key transportation through the steep terrain of Hvar. Honored with this statue, I wonder if this old girl has one trip left in her. She does! One of the best ways to experience Hvar is by bicycle. There's a rental shop right where the boat was docked, and electric bikes were the way to go. Our map leads us through the town of Vrovska. Since 1575, its iconic St. Mary's Fortress Church continues to watch over travel. Trekking through the Stardigrad Plain, we enjoyed some fresh air and very good exercise. With so many inviting stops along the way, we pressed on to make our goal. Making our goal of Starigrad on the west end of the island, we found a cute seaside town. Animals evoke the welcoming Croatian attitude. A friendly wave ushers us into town. Heading back on a circular route, we passed an airport. Oh no! Fertile soil looked ready for planting. The stone walls were made by the labor of removing the stones from the soil for planting and then building the walls by hand. It probably took centuries. Our trail soon revealed the Church of the Holy Spirit's bell tower. Dating all the way back to the 15th century, it is now a protected cultural heritage site. Underestimating the climb, we really enjoyed the downhill ride back to Jelsa. Our day ended at the famous Mojito Bar. The drink names were quite interesting and, well, I can't show them in the family video. Cataleya sure looked beautiful at night, and we went to bed for the day. Today, the boat will stay docked in Jelsa on Hvar Island. We'll head to Hvar City by taxi later. For now, a morning hike. The coastal path leading out of Jelsa follows a shoreline that has shaped life here for centuries. Fishermen once walked this same route at dawn, heading towards the small coves where their families kept their wooden boats. Finally, the full sweep of Jelsa came into view. From here, the trail turns inland towards the old cemetery. Established during that same period as Jelsa grew into a regional trading port back in the 1800s. The cemetery sits on a rise above town, arranged in terraces typical of Dalmatian island communities. The mausoleums stand as a tribute to the island's history. Sailors who crossed the Adriatic for trade, vineyard workers who tended the slopes, and citizens who lived through Jelsa's shifts from Venetian rule all the way into modern Croatia. Many of the markers are carved from local limestone, their inscriptions softened by salt and wind. Here rests the Granic family, 3 generations rooted in just this quiet rhythm of sea and stone. The cypress trees that line the paths echo a Mediterranean tradition dating back to antiquity, symbolizing morning and the passage of time. But as we get back on the trail, there's a good reminder to take a break from life and have a glass of wine. After a taxi ride, we are in Hvar itself. One of the main attractions is the Fortica, high above the city. The sweeping views of the city gave us the sense of how it protected the area. Just imagine that cannon firing on pirates and raiders. Whoa! Unfortunately, the weather decided to play havoc with us. The best thing we could do was duck in for a lunch. On Hvar, pastiškada is the classic comfort dish. Slow braised beef and a rich Dalmatian sauce, tender enough to fall apart at the touch. Still raining, we watched the fleet bobbing in the storm. It was scary. We all decided that the best bet was to head back to the boat, but not before heeding the advice of the sign we saw earlier, so we stopped at Ventus Winery. Ventus means wind, and the winery's logo is based upon a wind rose. The young boutique, organically certified winery founded in 2019 in the heart of Hvar. Their wines are inspired by the island's famous winds, each label named after a specific wind that shapes the vineyard's microclimate. We tasted so many interesting wines, and we cheered our day so far. After all the wine and appetizers, it was time to head back to Cataleya. One thing we loved was the flexibility on the trip. Today, for example, because we had lunch off ship, dinner would be served. As you can see, the fish was outstanding. As the day ended, we played a bit of poker for fun. Joe ended up winning. Congratulations, Joe! What a great end to the day. Today we leave Jelsa and head to Brač Island. Brač's story stretches from prehistoric cave dwellers to Venetian counts and World War II resistance fighters. It's also known for the limestone used, for example, in Diocletian's palace and other major works. We'll be anchoring in Milna Bay, known as the Cove of 1,000 Ships, because its sheltered waters could hide entire fleets. Wealthy ship owners and captains built the large stone villas that still line the waterfront today. Another famous Brač landmark is the Golden Horn Beach in Bol. That became the day's destination. Along the way, we passed a quarry. The famous limestone rocks of the island are gathered and shipped all over the world. We enjoyed beautiful views of Bol as we drove to the beach. As we walked the pebbly beach to the water, we saw lots of beach seating. Travel tip: most beaches in Croatia require a fee for using the lounge chairs and umbrellas. By the way, they do check. And nothing like a pizza delivered right to you while you're sitting there enjoying the beautiful views. Clear, blue and warm Adriatic Sea felt great, and a real rainbow magically appeared in the perfect spot for a photo. Interestingly, the beach literally changes shape from the wind and currents. Croatian beaches typically have amenities, and here was no exception. Food, drinks, massages, snacks, and shade made for a great experience. True to form, we decided to use our calories for drinks. Many shuttles are available to whisk you to various places around the island. We enjoyed a party ride to the taxi area for our ride back. Located right on the Bol waterfront is Stina Winery. While waiting for a transport, who can resist a quick tasting? Inside was a unique set of decorations. The dead grapevine sure made an interesting display. Our driver stopped at an incredible viewpoint. Seeing the city down below, the islands, the sea, and the mainland were certainly a sight to behold. Too bad we didn't plan for a picnic on the benches. Another must-stop is the Ložiška viewpoint, located inland on the Brač Island. Perched high above the channel, it's a quiet stone village overlooking one of Brač's most striking viewpoints, a hillside lookout once used to watch the sea routes below. It's so popular that an arbor was placed to get the perfect photo. The sunset framed our dinghy ride back to the boat. With various watercrafts and buildings along the harbor, it was a wonderful goodbye to the town. And it was a nice goodbye to the day once we got back to the boat. But we weren't done. We wanted an engine room tour. The boatmate proudly explained all the features, a Caterpillar V12 diesel, 3 generators, and way more. That gave us plenty to talk about before we retired for the evening. Sadly, it's our last day aboard. It's going to be a very busy day. First thing, we were going to a beautiful bay to play in the water. The crew placed all of the toys alongside the yacht. A few brave folks didn't waste any time getting in and acclimating to the water. Travel tip: in September the water was a bit brisk, but definitely not cold. We live in Southern California, so the water temperatures seem pretty much like ours. Once you're in, the water feels just fine. Not everyone wanted in the water, so lounging on the upper deck was a great option. No fighting over chairs on a cruise like this one. Others buzzed about until it was time to go ashore. Our dinghy ride gave a great view of Cataleya and the surrounding landscape. Wow, we could stay here forever. As we closed in on shore, we could see a quaint beach shack serving food and drinks. Aptly named the Beach Box, this small shack has a great beach, drinks, and snacks. Amazingly clear water and superb vistas gave this place a magical feel. As usual, we had to cheer how lucky we were to be in this secluded spot. It's a shame we can't stay until Friday. Sure looks fun. Back on board, chefs served a beautiful dish of grilled octopus. Some might not like this meal, but trust us, it was delicious and not weird at all. Cataleya was homeward bound after lunch. It was smooth sailing in the gentle Adriatic Sea. In fact, it never got rough or uncomfortable the entire trip. After we moored, a land excursion was arranged for us to go to the nearby town of Amish. Amish was famous for being a pirate base. We're to travel up the Cetina River where the ancient pirates hid. Tour boats took us upriver through the canyon. At the head of the river was a tourist area. One could have lunch or explore a nearby mill. What a beautiful place to enjoy nature. A short hike leads to the river's spring, clear, cold water reflecting the mountains and scenery. On the return voyage, one can get views of the towering mountains right by town. The Mirabella Fortress can be seen. Its job was to protect the marauders as they hid back in the river valley. It served as a vital lookout point for the famous Amish pirates who used the tower to spot incoming Venetian ships and then retreat safely into the Cetina River Canyon. Few dared challenge. Climbing to the fortress top was well worth it. Passing through narrow passageways and many stairs, the reward of seeing the view, especially at sunset, was priceless. One could imagine watching for the Venetian ships out in the channel and sending the pirates out to raid them, and watching them come back in to hide after they've picked their bounty. Quite amazing. As the day faded into night, we were told that there was a nice surprise in store for us. It turns out that Cataleya's owner also owns the restaurant where it's moored. Kanoma Poseidon was quite good. We feasted on a variety of specialties such as seafood and meats, with the meat course shown here. And wouldn't you know it, the captain of Cataleya is the owner's son, seen on the left. The captain and mate finally told us of our surprise. A serenade of authentic Croatian music. Wow, what a treat. Let's listen.
Okay, we'll do some traditional Croatian songs.
Niko ne zna što mi nosi noć, linda slava. Kad lunaca prospe se po luci, koja spava. Stojim tako to napiše vrlo, čekaću do se neke s horizontom svaja, more ludo.
Wow, now that was special. When it was all over, we cheered our wonderful trip as a group. We said our goodbyes and will miss the attentiveness of the crew, especially these two, and the camaraderie formed with the other passengers. It was a voyage never to be forgotten. Goodbye, Cataleya. It was a great trip.